Hello, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd. This is week 5, day 2 of India Evening and Weekend Platoon. Today, we're going to cover CSS. But before we jump into today's lesson, I kind of want to go over just a website very briefly to give a little bit of context on what we're going to learn today. When I go to a website, does anyone know what's returned? What three elements are returned? We're going to analyze the BBC website because I think it's a good website to analyze when you're starting to learn web development.
You mean like the TCP handshake or what?
No, that's way more advanced. We wouldn't teach you that right now. What components, what code is returned to the browser? Does anyone know?
Is it a DNS something or other?
Nah, you guys are getting too deep. I'm not asking difficult questions here. Oh, you learn.
HTML and
Sorry,
CSS
one more. You're missing one more.
and JavaScript.
That's it.
Who-
Those are the fundamental building blocks of all web pages. That's it. Those three elements, right? HTML are kind of like the bones of a website. CSS is what? Does anyone know?
The muscle, skin?
No.
Styling.
No, kind of the layers, right? The clothing, the styling, right? We'll touch on this last one, even though I don't think today's lesson touches on it, but we'll go ahead and cover it lightly. You're looking at the BBC website here. Let's just look at this very first one. That seems to be a movie or something. I don't even know. Let's press home here. There you go. That was an advertisement. When we look at this website, right? I just Googled BBC and I clicked on it, and this is loaded, right? So the user, me, the end user, makes a request to the BBC website. A lot happens behind the scenes that we're not going to touch on right now, but what's really returned are the three main components of every website: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. When you look at a website, HTML are kind of like the bones, right? So if you look at all the writing here, let's look at this one. Russia-US talks on Ukraine peace plan. That's HTML. Those are strings written on an HTML file somewhere, right? When I look at this bold right here in live, right? There's somewhere in their code that grabs that specific HTML element and gives it that color red, right? That's style. And when I click on something, like if I was to click, if I click on arts here, that's the JavaScript working behind the scene, right? Any action is JavaScript driven, any styling is CSS, and the bare bones of a website, like the writing, all the writing, is just HTML. Does everyone understand that? Wow, there's a lot of advertisements on this. Okay, does everyone understand that so far? All right, so do this right now if you haven't. Download Chrome. When you're going through this program, use Chrome. Don't use any other web browser. And I'm going to give you just the very basic reason why. Chrome has a really good set of what are known developer tools. So here, the hotkey here is F12, but you can right click, right? And you can click on inspect on a website. And it's going to pull up this little window where it kind of lets you walk through all the elements of the website that you have pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and do it, but I'm going to go ahead and move I don't remember how to do this. Here we go. I kind of like mine on the right because I have kind of a wider monitor. So I kind of like it on the right, but you can put it at the bottom if you want, right? So when I look at this, right, you can actually inspect all the data that was returned. All the data that was returned when you went to the BBC website. And here I can go ahead and find everything. Divs are just elements of data, but when you go over every single element, notice my website on the left. As I'm hovering on the window on the right, under elements, what do you notice? What's happening on the left of the website? It's highlighting it, right? So when I click on, let's say, here, this header, right? This points to what I'm looking at, that highlight under BBC. And this is a header element. if I click on it, I can actually go in there and find the BBC HTML, right? I click here, that's not it. If I click here, I know it's in there, right? So this is another div. In here, I'm going to find this writing. This is an A tag. Does anyone know what this is?
Hyperlink.
Yeah, it's a hyperlink. But if I go in here, let me open this a little bit more. Right? SVG is an image, right? And it shows that there's some kind of padding in here. That's a bunch of styling. But what do you notice here? It's just the title, right? It says British Broadcasting Corporation. Can I change that to anything?
You can edit that like the hackers do and make it look like you have $1 million in your bank account.
Yeah, you could do that. Oh, sorry. Let's see. This is an image, but I should see the text box. Which text box am I looking for here?
The title.
Yeah, I'm looking for that BBC. And I noticed what? Is the BBC text? I thought it was, but actually it isn't. What is it?
Come.
What is it? Just look at the here.
An image.
Yeah, it's an image. I thought it was text, and I was actually came in here to edit it to show you, hey, you can edit this. So that's actually an image. So I'm not going to be able to edit that. I can change the picture if I wanted to, but let's look at somewhere else. Let's look here. This is a nav bar, right? This is an HTML element. I can go in here. These are, it looks to be sections, another HTML element. It looks like we have another nav bar, nested nav bars. And these are just HTML elements, right? Now I have what HTML element right here? It's a what? I think you learned this yesterday, maybe. What's UL? It's a
Unordered.
it's an unordered list, and you can see every single one of the list elements. You can see them, right? They're here. So I can click in here. This is a div styling element. This is another. What link is this? If I click on home, it's a what? It's a hyperlink, right? It's an A tag, right? And you can tell because that nav bar, when I click on those, when I clicked on arts earlier, it took me, it rerouted me, right? So that's an A link. It's an A tag, and there's no writing in there. Where could I possibly find some writing that I can edit? Let's see. The header, no. Let's check if subscribe maybe is a. Let's check here. Let's check this div right here. Is FIDA in that subscribe section? Check if subscribe is actually text or if that's, it is text. I can tell. Look at subscribe. This is an HTML element, a button, and it has to subscribe. But this, I can change. Why is it not working?
You use Burp Suite and
I just,
CSS and stuff.
yeah, no, but oops. What did I just do? This will work for all intended purposes. Anybody notice?
You deleted the button.
Yeah. I deleted the other button. What's going to happen if I refresh this page?
It comes back.
Yeah. Why?
This is you're loading from the server.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So when I make a request to a website, it sends me all this information. It sends me all this HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and it loads with what they call the DOM, the document object model, right? Which is what the end user sees, right? But once I have that data, right, I can edit it any way that I want through the dev tools and through a multitude of different things. I just wanted to show you that, hey, this is how ultimately you're going to debug some of your web pages. You can do it with real life web pages with your dev tools. Granted, when you refresh, notice it's making another request to the server and it's going to give you the right information. So anything that you change locally obviously doesn't change the server. Does everyone understand that?
Yep.
So I
Scott said he's late and he needs to be led in class, by the way.
got it. Just got it. Sorry. Thank you. If that happens, definitely don't be afraid to let me know. So I just wanted to go over DevTools. It's F12 is the hotkey, but you can right click, inspect, and use your DevTools. Has anyone showed you this before? Probably, maybe Tiffany showed you this yesterday. No? Yes? I'm going to assume yes. Okay, perfect. All right. So definitely download Chrome if you don't have it. Definitely use Chrome. Ultimately, after you finish this class, if you don't want to use Chrome or you hate it or you have something else to use, awesome. But for the class, I would highly recommend Chrome. All right, cool. So that's just kind of an overview of DevTools, how you can kind of step through a website and see what components it's made up of. Actually, the next thing that I want to touch upon is extensions. Make sure that you have live server. This one. Make sure you have that extension in your VS Code. Because we're going to use that today. Another one that I really like is, it's called VS Code icons, this one. If you wonder, like when I go to my files, notice my JavaScript file has a nice little JS, and then my HTML file has the HTML5 thing, and then CSS. Those are just VS Code icons. So definitely make sure you just download them. Make sure you have those too. I think they're pretty handy. All right, DevTools, super important. So today we're going to just talk about CSS, cascading style sheets, and styling web pages. Before we start discussing this, just know that ultimately you're not going to really write raw CSS, right? You're going to use some kind of framework just because it's easier. And a lot of the times, a lot of companies have internal frameworks that they use for building their own applications. You ever go to a website and everything that website does kind of looks the same? Or maybe that company owns multiple websites and you notice that it all kind of looks similar. They're probably using their own internal frameworks. That's why they look similar. They're using the same framework inside. All right, so just like you're very rarely going to write just like raw JavaScript or raw CSS or raw HTML, it's still important to understand kind of how it works under the hood, so you're able to leverage those tools once that time comes. All right, cascading style sheets and styling web pages. This is just an extension of yesterday's lesson. Let's just kind of step through how you would do this. If you open an HTML file, and everyone, you can go ahead and follow along now. Open just a file called index.html. This is a little shortcut. This is boilerplate HTML. You can press exclamation mark at the beginning of the file and just hit tab, and it's going to give you this. This is just a boilerplate HTML template, right? And here you could add, let's do, is title one? Yep, title, hello world. You can save it, and then you can open it using live server. You can right click, open with live server here. I'm actually going to pull this out for right now. Open it here. Why did it do that? All right, let's try this. All right, cool. So I have this. Awesome. Refresh. Something didn't work. Did I mess up something here?
Like you just don't have any content to display.
I have this, don't I?
Is your text
Oh.
white?
Does title not work? Let's try just a p tag. There you go. That was the title. It was actually changing this name up here. All right, hello world. All right, so that's how it works. So this is just kind of the beginning of kind of building a website. So I have a paragraph tag. Let's do H1 actually. Let's make it like an H1 tag. H1, boom. There you go. Hello world. Cool. Now we're going to implement CSS, right? This styling of a website. So how would I do that? Does anyone know? How would I attach a CSS file to my HTML?
Create a styles file.
Yeah, it could be styles.
Or you-
I did CSS, but it doesn't really matter, right?
Or
Huh?
you can include it in the HTML.
Yep. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Right now, we are going to keep them separate for now. So where would I add that?
At the
In the header.
top underneath under doc type HTML, or well, yeah, in the header.
And it's a what?
The link tag.
Link tag. href, right? Yes.
I'm just following your lead. And it's a
That's where I'm stopping.
cool.
Would be
No worries. We'll come back to it. But yes, you know that you have to link your files, right? So let's just go over the lesson now. All right, so what is CSS? It's short for cascading style sheets. It's a style sheet language used for describing the presentation and layout. That's a really important thing there, actually. The layout of web documents. Like when you look at this website, and I'm going to reference this website a lot because I think it's actually a really good beginner website. I showed you the dev tools, right? But look at this layout. Okay, what do you notice about this? Just anything that you notice about this layout. It's very what?
Even.
Blocky.
Yeah, it's very blocky. We're going to come back to that, but you can tell that that's a style. And you can almost tell that this is a box and this is the box and this is the main box and this is just a bunch of boxes, right? And that's how this website is actually built, right? All right, so describing the presentation and super important layout, because I showed you the BBC website and so all a bunch of boxes is this very blocky layout. Defines the layout of your document, right? So CSS basics, style attribute. In HTML, styles can be added directly to elements using the style attribute. For example, p style. This is what's known as actually inline styles. Don't do this. And I'm going to describe why in just 1 second. Can you do it? Yes, you can. But it's highly recommended that you don't do this. And the reason why you want to include your styling and your functionality in different files is this idea known as separation of concerns, right? Let's go back to our BBC website. This is your website. Imagine you built this and you think, man, this live button is red, but it'd be super dope if it was green instead. Which file am I going to go to change that?
Styles. If you separated it.
Your style file, right? I mean, people typically call it style CSS, but you call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that it's a CSS file, right? So yeah, okay, awesome. What if you wanted to change the title of this website? You don't want to say Russia, US talks on Ukraine peace. You want to say war in Ukraine. Where would you go to change that?
Index HTML.
Yeah, your HTML. What if you're clicking on this arts button and it's not taking you to arts? Where would you go to change that or to fix that? Let's say I'm clicking this arts button and it's not redirecting me properly. Where would I go?
The hyperlink section.
JavaScript
That's not
file.
very specific. The JavaScript file, right? So exactly what I just illustrated there is separation of concerns. If I look at a website and I want to change this color, I know it's CSS, go to the CSS file. If I know I want to change the title, go to the HTML file. If I'm clicking on something that's not working, I know it's a JavaScript file. Separation of concerns. Makes it much easier to iterate on websites when you hold to that golden standard of development. Does everyone understand that? Right? So I think they're just teaching you the different ways you can add styling here. They're teaching you the different ways you could add styling, but you would actually never do this, right? That's an inline style, right? If you start doing inline styles, what problem does it cause? Think about what I
Technical
just
debt.
said. Yeah, but that's just a broad term that doesn't, it's not specific enough, right? It's like when you ask someone what they do for work and they say a consultant. That could literally be anything. You can consult on
Mhm.
Oreos or nukes. It could be anything, right?
Make it less readable and harder to maintain.
Way harder to maintain because if it's an inline style, I'm starting to think that, hey, this code was written properly. I'm looking for CSS. I can't find it. So then I would have to go look where, if it's an inline style. Anybody know?
You have to look into HTML.
Yeah, that makes
Everywhere.
it, yeah, the HTML, that makes it really messy, right?
But I've worked with pages that were a mess. I mean, at an actual company, and they had inline styles, and they had separate files for styles, and they had separate files for the JavaScript. It was insane, and it was a pain in the butt to maintain it.
You're not supposed to do that for that specific reason. Now, does it happen? Yes. When you start working as a developer in tech, you're going to ultimately and very quickly realize you're kind of surprised how anything even works because everything is a mess and everything's always on fire. And the backlog is always like a million items long. You're wondering how anything ever works. That's just kind of the nature of the business. So not surprising at all. All right, inline styles. We're going to talk about the different ways of adding styling to a website. That's just one of them, right? But for right now, really the thing you have to keep in mind is separation of concerns. Keep all the logic separate. It's going to be much easier to maintain. All right, internal styles. Styles can also be placed within an HTML document using style elements in the head. So this right here is an example. I'm going to go to my HTML, and it says, hey, inside your HTML document, add a style element in the head section. So if I go in the head section here and I add this, I just copied and pasted, right? I just copied and pasted this, right? This is just a style tag. And here it's saying, hey, we haven't got to this yet, but I'll just put H1 here. H1, and we're going to discuss this in just 1 second, it's referencing this H1 element. And it's saying, hey, change the color to green, right? So if I go here, notice my hello world is green, right? So they've shown you two different ways to add style to HTML elements. You can do inline, right? And this, I didn't really teach you this, but I can do it right now. This is inline. So here, I added it as a little style element, but you could also do this. This would be inline. Style color blue. And here I'm going to fix the font size and the color here. And I go here, boom, inline. So there you go. This is inline styling. This is, I don't even know if there's a name for this, but this is just adding a little style element and adding it to the header component of your HTML. These are two ways to do it. Both of those are less than optimal. Does it happen sometime? Yes. Should it happen? No. It's too hard to maintain that way, right? So you're not going to do it these two ways. You're going to add a style sheet. And that's what we're probably going to go into here in a second. All right, we're going to add a style sheet. Actually, I'm going to pull a little clip here, and then we'll come back to this. Let's do it the right way. And the right way would be to just add a style sheet. So instead of this, right, just link your style sheet. And this is actually wrong right now for me because I named my style sheet something different. So could someone fix this for me?
Change styles.css to index.css.
Yep, index.css. Now, my hello world is actually going to go back to black because it actually has no style, but I know I have an H1 element. And that's how you actually style your HTML. You grab it by element or ID or class. So we're going to practice that now. This specific line, line 8, just actually linked my index.css file to this HTML file. So now I can actually style this file using my index.css file. So I'll go ahead and split it here. And this is, I actually just showed you this a second ago. So if I wanted to grab the H1 element, I just grab it. And then what if I wanted to change the color to, let's do purple, right? This index.css file is not linked to my HTML. So I can actually, see, it's purple. So 3 ways of adding style. You can add a style block in the header. You can do inline styles, or you can use a separate file. What's the only right way to do it?
Style file.
Style file, always. Because right now, it's easy because you have 3 files, right? But ultimately, even small applications will be thousands of lines, tens of thousands of lines, thousands of files. And it's really hard to maintain all that. Kind of a pain. Alrighty, so internal styles. This is the style block that I told you you're not going to use. You're going to do separation of concerns. You're going to do a separate CSS file. So this is how you do it. Selectors and properties. CSS styling is applied to the HTML elements through selectors, which can target elements, classes, or IDs. Understanding when and how to use them is essential for precise control over your styles. So this is an example that I used earlier, element selectors. This is grabbing which HTML element. I did it with an H1 tag, but this is just grabbing which HTML element.
Paragraph.
Yeah, paragraph. So if I just went back to HTML and I did a P tag, I did, yeah, just a P tag. Where am I? I just did a P tag here. That's you can type lorem and then tab, and it just gives you filler text, just another shortcut. So that's what I did. I knew that, so I just typed in lorem and I press enter because I just wanted a paragraph. So now I actually have a paragraph. So when I go to my web page, I have that paragraph. Right, and we grabbed the H1, but here it would be just the same thing. I'm grabbing the P tag and I'm just going to do color green. There's some built-in colors in CSS, like keyword colors, but you can get really specific. And I'll show you how in just 1 second. So now you can see that my paragraph is green and my H1 is purple, right? And I'm showing you really simple ones, but you can style pretty much anything that you would like, as long as you understand the syntax for it. All right, so those are the selectors. You're grabbing the HTML elements based on their either element, ID, or class. Let me give you an example. How would I give a class to my H1 element right there on line 11?
Do a space after the first one, type out class equals, and then quotes with whatever you want to name the class.
Some class. Some class. Cool. All right, so now when you look at that H1 element, it is an H1 element, but it also has a class, right? So if I wanted to give that class a different color, I could grab it by class. What's class? Some class, I believe it's that, some class, right? And then I can do just color, let's do yellow one, yeah, sure. Boom. So when I go in here, my H1 now has a sum class, and I just changed the color to yellow. What did I mess up here?
The precedence, because you have 2 things being attributed to the H1 tag.
Ooh, kind of close. But I'm going to get to that in 1 second. This should work, actually, and it's not. What did I mess up?
Oh, isn't class a period?
Is
Let's see,
it?
it's the sheet.
Let's see it.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The pound sign was not a class, is for an ID, right? So you can tell, my identifier was wrong. So here we go. Hello world now is yellow. Cool. I think Scott just pointed to something really, really important. Cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets. Does anyone know where that name comes from? Why that's important? It kind of describes how CSS works.
From the top down.
Yeah, from the top down. Now, this is super important here. If I do H1 here, and I do, let's do teal. Is teal a color? Yeah. No, let's do tomato. Sure,
The
tomato.
last bit of code was preference.
Okay, we're going to get to that. So when I go here, notice that my hello world is now tomato colored. When I go here, it's known as cascading style sheets because it follows a cascading pattern, meaning, right, any code further down the file will take precedence if it's of equal or less specificity. That's the key word here. If it's of equal or less specificity, whatever's further down the file will take precedence. So let's look here. Here we have an element of H1 that turns it into purple. But when you get to specific line 9, you grab that same H1 element and you turn it a different color. They have the same level of specificity here. They both grab in the H1 element tag, but now it's colored tomato because it's further down the list. Does everyone understand that for right now? It's going to get a little bit more complicated here in a second. But just to understand, if it has the same level of specificity or less, whatever's further down the file takes precedence. That's why this H1 is not purple anymore, and it's this tomato color. And we can see it here. Yes? Okay. Stay with me. If right here we grabbed some class, and I hit save, what color is my hello world going to be now?
Red.
Any other guesses?
Should be purple because you're grabbing the class tag rather than just H1.
Yes, but what's so special about that class tag? I don't expect you to know this, but some of you might.
It has a higher specificity.
Yep, it has a
Howard?
higher specificity. Remember the rule in CSS. Whatever's further down the cascade will overwrite anything before it if it has equal or less specificity. If something that comes before has more specificity, you can't overwrite it until you hit the equal amount or more, right? So when I look at this, it's purple. This is kind of like a crude way to think about it. When you look at an element, an HTML element, think of that as having 1 point. This is kind of how I think about it. Think of just grabbing an HTML element as having 1 point. Think of a class as having 10 points. Think of an ID as having 100 points, right? So when you layer styling onto a web page, you use a lot of classes and only very few IDs. Can anyone tell me why? I'll say that again. When you style a web page, you tend to use a lot of classes, but very few IDs, and that's how you style it. Does anyone know why?
Is it because the if you use a class, you can hit more elements at once, whereas if you use the ID, you're only hitting that one?
Yeah, it makes it easier to layer it, right? So notice how I had an H1 here, and it has a class of some class. But I could easily have an H2 here and give it that same class. Give it that same class, some class. And this could be another world, sure. And another world is also going to be purple. Right? So I didn't have to go, hey, H1 purple, H2 purple. That would have been kind of annoying. But if I give them both the same class and grab the class, I can start layering the styles to a multitude of different elements, not just one. All right, so when you're grabbing elements and you're styling them, specificity is actually a really important thing to keep in mind. Are you grabbing an element? Are you grabbing a class? Are you grabbing an ID? All that's really important because when you style, it's going to be really hard to overwrite a style if you gave it an ID and later down the file you want to change it. How many points of specificity are going to need to override an ID? Anybody know?
101.
101 or 100 as long as that color comes further down the cascade, right? So keep that in mind. I know that seems kind of confusing, but that's how it works. Alrighty, so this one just talks about selectors and grabbing the specific elements. I use paragraphs in H1, but anything that you can think of that's an HTML element, you can grab by element. By the same token, if you give any element any class or ID, you can grab that class and ID, right? And you're not limited to what they can be, right? Class selectors, you are right, the period. And then ID selectors, right, is the pound sign, right? And this gives you just another little property. I haven't messed with this one, but this is just font size. Font size, you can do, let's do 47, 45 pixels right now. That should be pretty big, I guess. Yep, there you go. And notice how both got big because I grabbed the what?
The class.
Yeah, I grabbed the class, right? Cool. All right, so you grab by element, you grab by class, you grab by ID. Remember, right? Most of your stylings are going to be by element and by class. Very few by ID. And that's because as you build your website, it's going to be really difficult to overwrite something you've already written. Specificity is super important. This is actually a really important point here. Use ID selectors for one-of-a-kind styling, typically for important elements like headers or unique sections, for the simple fact that, remember, they're like 100 points of specificity. It's going to be hard to overwrite them. All right. This kind of touches upon what I just went over, specificity and hierarchical order. When the same element is styled using multiple selectors, CSS follows a hierarchy to determine which styles take precedence. Here's the general order of specificity from least to most specific. Element selectors are the least specific, lowest priority, right? That's like a P tag or an H1 tag. Next one is classes, next one's ID. Super important to keep those points that I told you in mind because they're roughly the right idea, right? A class is going to have 10 times more specificity than an element. And then an ID is going to have 100 times more than an element or 10 times more than a class. Keep that in mind. Something that has not been discussed is something like this. Let's do this. What if I have this? I want to make another world red. How would I do it?
Chain together a class selector with an element selector.
Give it to
Oh
me.
no, that's going to hit both H1s.
I want to turn another world red. How do I do it?
We do it by class.
Yeah, sure. How? Give me the command.
Dot some class and the color.
Like this?
Yeah.
That's not quite right because what did it do?
Well, it turned the header red too.
Yeah, I
'Cause
have
it's
two
funny you don't
H1s
have the
here,
same.
but that's not what I wanted. I just want another world red. That's it.
Yeah, you have the class's name exactly the same. So
That's not an issue.
So can you add an ID to the another world?
You could,
H1?
yeah, I could. I could add an ID here. There's nothing that says I can't have multiple classes or multiple IDs. I could add an ID here. But what problem does this cause?
It'd be really hard to, or not hard, but meticulous to change it later on down the road, or whereas class you can do an abundance of other lines as well.
You're kind of walking the right answer, but you haven't hit the crux of it. It is going to be harder to change later on, but why? How many points of specificity is line 13? If I was to grab it.
110.
Yeah, if I wanted an ID, it would just be 100. But if I grab both, the ID in the class, that's 110. You can stack them, right? And that's going to be really hard to overwrite. It would be much simpler, right? If I just did what? Could I go section, right? Child H1, child H1, color red. Does that work? Nope. How would I target it? This is getting pretty close. What does this look like? Even if you don't know exactly what's happening here, what does this kind of look like? How am I trying to grab it?
you just
Like a
trying to
parent-child relationship.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the relationship of the components in HTML. So if I was just to do section here, right, it's actually going to do what?
It's going to
What?
grab everything in that section.
Yeah, it grabbed everything. All right, let's do it one by one. It grabbed everything, but I don't really want to grab everything in this section. I just want to grab the first H1. If I did the first H1 from section, right, it's actually going to scan this document and say, hey, where is there an H1? That's a child of a section. Grab that color, right? But that's not the right color, right? So how would I grab it? I'm still just the same. The goal hasn't changed, right? I'm still trying to change another world, right? So what is it? Someone pull it up.
The nth child.
Okay. How do I do that?
I think it's what dot some class space.
I don't want to grab some class. Why don't I want to grab some class in this specific scenario? What am I trying to avoid here? You
Hit
can do
both
it
of
that
them.
way. I'm trying to avoid hit both of them, but I'm really trying to avoid what? What else? Adding more specificity to my selector. I'm trying to avoid that. Right? It's going to be harder for me to overwrite it down the road. So I'm just trying to grab it as it is. Right? So how would I grab it? It's just the next one to section. So I should be able to do that. This doesn't work. There has to be a way to do it, right?
I think Nick just put it in the chat.
Where? Nicholas, where'd you find this?
On
Is this
Google.
it? Is this it?
Except I think we would have to put type 2 after I read it further. Because
Okay.
it's
So it'd
saying that's going to
be
grab the first one.
okay. I did grab the first one. Grab the second one. There you go. Grab the second one. There's actually an easier way to do it. I'm gonna let you guys figure that one out. But just so you know, that's the only point I wanted to get across. Right? When you get into a situation like this, just grab it. How many points of specificity is this? It's a little confusing. But it's not a class, right? It's not 10. It's how much? It's 2. Someone tell me why it's 2.
It's because H1 is 1 point, and so they see the two H1s and
Yeah, that's it. It's only 2 elements, right? You're not using a class to grab it. You're not using an ID to grab it, right? So the specificity is low, right? Could have easily just not made this so difficult and done IDs what pound? Plus, no, that's not it. This does the exact same thing, right? Why wouldn't I have done it this way? You can do it this way. Why would I not have done it this way?
Isn't that going to give it the most points and make it harder to override later?
Exactly. That's the answer. I'm trying to give, as I'm building my web page, what am I trying to do with my CSS? I'm trying to give it all my elements that I style. I'm trying to give them the least amount of what?
Work.
Least amount of specificity. And the reason for that is understanding the cascading style of CSS. It's going to become harder to overwrite as that file gets longer. If right out of the gun, you ID everything, right? And you get to line 200 in your CSS file, right? You're going to need 100 plus points of specificity to overwrite them. Keep that in mind. Super important thing. When you're writing CSS and you're wondering why certain colors aren't changing or certain formatting in your application isn't changing, right? Chances are your specificity is wrong. Actually, chances aren't wrong. Chances are that that is what's wrong. Sorry, I said that really awkwardly. But the specificity is off. That's why you can't overwrite anything. So go back to the top of the file and look at every element. And typically what I do is you try to decrease the specificity of all of your HTML elements. That way it makes writing CSS a little simpler. All right, I could grab the class. You could grab the element. Look into this. The way that I've seen this before, but I don't normally see it that way. There has to be another way. I'll leave that for you guys to handle. But just know that you can grab the elements. You can grab siblings of elements. You can grab children of elements. You can grab great-grandchildren of elements, right? Like here, I have, look at line 11. I have a section and I have an H1, but inside of this H1, I could have like a paragraph, some stuff. I could have 2 paragraphs in here, some other stuff. And if I went to my CSS, I could style it something like section, H1, P tag, color. Let's do green, right? I could do something like that, right? And this would change it. Figure out how this ordering goes. But if I left this here, how many points of specificity would this be?
That's 3.
Yeah, just 3. All those are HTML tags. Section is 1, H1 is 1, P is 1. Right? Just figure out their relationship and that gives you everything. All right, styling HTML elements. There's a bunch of syntax that you're going to go over, right? I always do color because it's the one that I can remember, but there's like font size, there's underline, no, not underline. Oh, text underline offset. There's bold. There's a lot of different things that you can use to style your web pages. I always use color because it's like the easiest one to show. There's background color. There's pretty much anything you can think of. Alrighty, CSS box model. We actually don't go over it in this lesson, right? But it's this. When you look at websites, that's the first thing you need to think of, right? All the layouts are just boxes, right? Even when I went to my inspector tools, right? And I highlight every one of those sections, what do you notice that each of them are? They're just what?
Boxes.
Yeah. If you look at this kind of looks like just one big box, and inside this box, there could be another box right here, and then small boxes inside of it, right? This nav bar is just a big rectangle with boxes in it that are hyperlinks, right? And you can actually go element by element and see that is the case. Responsive design. Anybody know what responsive design is?
I don't mind if you would push in just
Making the page dynamic so it changes with screen size.
Yeah, that's responsive design. There's this software engineering methodology. Hey, whoever's hot miking, stop hot miking, dude. So there's a couple of software engineering ideologies that people should subscribe to, right? What's one that you already know? There should be at least 2 that you can remember that you've been taught.
OOP and dry.
OOP is one, dry is the other one. Anything else?
Where am I and who am I?
Those are Linux and 10x, but yes, good. You're kind of walking the line of what I want you to think about, right? There's these best practices that you need to keep in mind, right? Do people follow them all the time? No. Should they? Probably. And this is just one of them. Don't forget TDD as well. So there's this another one called mobile first. That when people design websites, they design them because most of the people in the world consume their internet on a what?
The cell phone.
Yeah, on a cell phone. Can anyone be more specific? What kind of cell phone? Does anyone know?
Smartphones. Like
Yeah, smartphone. What operating system would you say?
that's typically what iOS with
Android.
Android.
It's Android, yes, but why is it Android? Does anyone know?
Is that because it's the biggest open source?
No, it's not open source. Google owns it.
Google made it.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Yeah, it could have been anybody though. But why is it? Why
People
is it?
can afford it.
There you go. Who said that?
Me.
Logan? Star pupil, sir. Yeah. So when we're just chilling at our nice houses with air conditioning and our nice MacBooks with our $1,000 iPhone 17s, right? You have to understand that the world doesn't have $2,000 for a MacBook or $1,000 for an iPhone. Most of the world is surfing the internet on a shitty knockoff Android, right? And as time passes, that number will only grow. The next billion users are coming on Android. Why is that? Because most of the world is poor. That's it. There's really no more to that. Don't you think everyone would probably own the best possible phone and computer if they could? Of course they would, right? I think in America, we don't think about that. Anyway, all right. So when most of the people are surfing the internet, right, on their phones, they want their websites to be what?
Easy to digest.
Yeah, easy to digest, right? So when you look at responsive design, just kind of look at my website, look at my page. What's happening here?
It like wraps the text and stuff.
Yeah, it wraps the text and at a certain viewing size. What happens to some of the content?
The images shrink as well.
Yeah, they shrink, but what happens to some of the content?
Collapses on itself.
Yeah, it collapses, it goes away to only show what at the end?
The most eye-catching part that you want someone to see.
Yeah, if you have extra real estate, show all this. If you don't have that much real estate, show the most important part. Make sense? When people talk about responsive design, right, they're really talking about mobile first, right? This concept, right, that anyone that's developing a web page should design the web page for mobile first. Why is that? Because most of the people in the world consume their internet via what?
Smartphones.
Via smartphones. Yes. Right. So that's another thing to keep in mind, right? So when you think of responsive design, really the main thing that should come to mind is, hey, most of the world is viewing and consuming the internet through their phones, right? Make sure they work on their phones nicely, right? And if they have more real estate, sure, show them some more stuff. Show them some advertisement too, so we can get some revenue. But if they don't have that space, just show them the most important thing. Because we want as many consumers as we can get, right? And we need to cater to them. Make sense? Yes? It's not just this one. There used to be some bad ones. I think UPS finally fixed theirs. There used to be some bad ones. When you go, you can test this, right? But some websites, if they're older especially, actually, let's go to a school website, Austin Independent. There you go. These guys are notorious for having terrible web pages. Let's see if this one is. I don't know if this one's good or not, but let's see. Let's look at this. You tell me if they did a good job. Yes? Is everyone watching this?
Very mediocre.
That is terrible, Jane.
That's what they get. It's an independent school district. They're lacking funding.
They're the highest piece of my property taxes. They're getting some money. I don't know where it's going, but that's an example of a bad execution of responsive design, right? That BBC website was actually pretty good. Oh, let's check Hope Platoon. See how we did. All right, that's pretty good. There you go. I think they're just a WordPress website, but still, good job. You can tell that, hey, this school district can afford WordPress or a little bit better. Look at that. A single mom's not going to be able to enroll her kid into school because she's on her phone and can't use the website. Anyway, that's besides the point. All right, let's go back to the lesson. That was kind of dark. Why did I say that? I don't know. All right. So box model, everything's a box. Responsive design, we just went over it. CSS best practices. Use external style sheets for maintainability. That's one of the most important things you need to remember. And the golden rule is separation of what? Does anyone remember?
Concerns.
Separation of concerns. This next one's actually pretty good too. Group related styles together. You'll sometimes see in CSS files, they'll have like comments, like how do you, does it, I don't even know how you do a comment. Just comment here. They'll say like main nav bar. And this will be a comment, but all their code will be here. And then further down the line, they'll say like main title. And then there'll be a comment, and then they'll have all the rest of the code here. Right. That's actually a really good piece of advice. Group all your styles together. Makes it easier to find. You can actually just Control F, search the file for what you're looking for, and typically you can find it. All right, so this is actually two really important pieces of advice. Use meaningful class and ID names. This goes without saying for all variable names, all classes, all IDs. You notice that when I do this, I always give really bad class names. Don't do that. Use descriptive adjectives. Minimize the use. This is actually wrong. Don't use any inline styles at all. Now, this is going to get a little confusing when you start using like frameworks or libraries like Bootstrap and stuff like that. They're going to use a lot of inline styles, but that's kind of a separate beast. For right now, don't use any inline styles. Follow consistent naming conventions, kind of the same thing I said earlier, and then comment your CSS documentation. No one ever documents their CSS, but it's a good tip to give you. All righty, cool. Let's look at your assignments. I'm actually going to have you do the assignment top 10 first. I think in the assignment, I think the other one comes first, but this one, it makes more sense to do this one first. So what's going to happen, I've been yapping for like an hour. So what's going to happen is it's 6:35. Let me stop sharing. It's 6:35. Let's take like a 20-minute break. Come back at 6:55. And jump into your breakout rooms and see if you can tackle the first assignment top 10 on your own. We're going to come back, debrief top 10, and I think we're going to have a little bit of time to go over a little bit of JavaScript with our HTML and CSS. So I can show you a little bit of how that works. Make sense?
Are we doing it in groups or on our own?
Do individually for right now. When we come back, I'll leave you by yourself for like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and then we'll come back because that assignment is not that long.
Yeah.
And then we'll do groups after.
All right, cool.
We're back. We are back. How did top 10 go?
Yeah, I think I'm not a front end dev.
No, that's how everything feels like the first couple of times. Anyone come close to finishing by chance? Anyone get half? How about that? Let's start there. Anybody get 5? Someone got 3. Someone got one.
Today's not my day.
The README isn't really clear, so I'm kind of confused. Still, pick my top 10 HTML and CSS, and what? Do we put it in the index or do we read it out or what?
Gonna
I
need
mean,
more.
I got one that's pretty simple. I just almost mirrored. I was going through CSS style. I didn't even do anything special. I basically almost mirrored the assignment that we had, and then I was looking through the different CSS, but it basically looks like the same thing we just did.
Nicholas, how far did you get?
I added some colors, and some background colors. I'm definitely not a front end guy either.
Okay, that's okay. I know two people have said that already. I can't remember who the other person was. And let me drop some knowledge on you real quick. I get some weird questions from new devs all the time. I do a lot of mentoring on the side because people mentored me when I was trying to get into tech, and they did a good job. So I try to return the favor. Inevitably, in classes, I always get some of the following questions. They ask, "Oh, what kind of job should I go for, or should I focus on this, or should I focus on that?" Let me tell you, at least as a dev, this is the first job you're going to get. The first one they offer you. That's it. There is no more to that. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You don't call the shots for the first one. I've been saying that for years, but it applies more to this class right now than it has ever applied ever in the 4 years I've been a dev. And I'm sure everyone is smart enough to figure out why. Is that correct? So keep that in mind when you're working through this. I understand. I'm not a front end guy either. I hate it, honestly. If you could tell, I couldn't remember some of the syntax for CSS because no one really writes it. But conceptually, I understood it very well. And I could write it if I really wanted to, but there's no need for me to do that. That being said, right, definitely try to focus on learning it, at the very least conceptually, even if you don't remember all the syntax all the time, because it will become important if you end up as a front end dev. Maybe that's the only thing they have available and they like you, and you just kind of adjust your skill set to that. Actually, last cohort, someone asked me why I ended up in the cloud and cloud DevOps and infra and stuff. You know what my answer was? Because it pays more. That's it. That doesn't really matter, right? That I like it. What pays the most? Give me that job. That's it. Now, you may not think like that, and that's totally cool. If you come from a slightly more privileged position where you can be a little picky, by all means, do it. I did not come from that position, so whatever pays the most. And guess what? If someone came around and offered me 100K more than I'm making now, whatever they want me to, if they want me to start learning how to juggle in our stand-ups, I'll do that. Make sense? Whatever they need, just make sure that big check keeps it. Alrighty, sorry, I'm off my soapbox. Alrighty, why don't we start it together? How about that? Would that help? Yes, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna work through this like you would. All right, top 10. And I'm literally just gonna, and you can follow along. I'm literally just gonna copy this. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go, literally gonna delete everything and start from scratch. This is what you would be doing. Okay. So you're here, right? Yes. Okay, cool. I just copied the README so I wouldn't have to keep flipping over, keep flipping back and forth, right? So that's it. It's just there. Cool. And I'm literally just going to take it step by step. I'm going to just put this down here. It's called top 10. Cool, 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 cool. All right. It says there are 10 different HTML tags and at least over 120 CSS properties. You'll be learning them all. No, you just have to learn a handful and then you can research the rest. However, this challenge will get you started. Explore HTML. Spend some time reviewing your favorite websites. What HTML is being used to make them? Let's do that. I think that's a good exercise. All right, I'm gonna go to what's a really awesome website? ESPN. I go to this. You can tell by my auto completion. I go to it all the time. All right, because I like to check my scores. They just released a new college football playoff rankings. Cool. If I go here, let me break this down HTML style for everybody, right? And this is when you look at a website, you should be able to do the following. All right, I look up here. This black bar right here looks like a what? What HTML tag?
Nav bar.
Yeah, this is the nav bar. What's inside of here?
List items.
Yeah, they're list items. But here, you don't probably know this word, but these are drop-down modals, right? That come down, right? And this is a drop-down. These are drop-down boxes in here, right? That are all nested inside the nav bar, inside the NFL section. Same thing with NBA, MLB, NCAA. College football is a little different because it just has a simple drop down. It doesn't have the extended one, right? But that's all this is, right? This is a nav bar, right? With a bunch of clicks that open modals with unordered list items, right? That have all what in there? These are all what?
Links.
Yeah, they're all links. I go to my Chicago Bears, first in the NFC, baby. And it takes me to the Bears main page, right? Shows players, their schedule, latest scores, interesting news from my Bears. Cool. So this is just a nav bar, drop-down modal, unordered list, right? With a bunch of A tags, right? Cool. So if I go to the main ESPN thing, and you can, I don't know why I did that. Okay. When you look at this, everything in a website's a box, right? So this giant box has this box with a bunch of live sports, it appears to be, the main stories here, right? And this right here, just another box with a bunch of articles, it looks like, right? This right here, they embedded a what?
Maybe iframe.
iframe.
Yeah, this is an iframe. And I can actually play it, right? And it doesn't go anywhere else. I could have embedded a YouTube video here. That would look a little different, right? But it would play the same. It wouldn't redirect me to YouTube. It's embedded within my actual web page, right? So that's what that is. These are what? Anybody know what this is? I don't expect anyone to know what these are, but this looks like a what?
Carousel.
Carousel.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a carousel that has what in it?
Bunch of iframes.
Yeah, a bunch of iframes with titles, right? Yes. And it has something super interesting here at the bottom left-hand corner. What is it?
Probably the video runtime.
It's not the video runtime. The video runtime is posted, but it's not this bottom left-hand corner of that specific.
View count. How many?
How long ago it was posted?
Yeah, how long ago? This is the date time. How long ago it was posted? Showing you how recent it is, right? So that's a simple date time in the background, right? That's in this card inside of this carousel. And every single one of these cards has an iframe embedded of a click that also displays the length of that specific video in the bottom left-hand corner. That is in addition to the iframe. That's superimposed over the iframe. That doesn't come with the video. That was a stylistic choice. Look at all the choices that were made on this website. right? We're going to run a carousel with iframes. We're going to post how long ago they were posted so they know how recent it is. And I want to tell the user how long the video is because attention spans are very short these days. Got to tell them. These are all creative choices that someone made. And we just broke down what this is. This is probably the most interesting part of this entire website right here. The choices made here, right? But the whole website's good. It's clean. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Yes? If I could click here, what is this? It's getting a little harder. If I click this and I go create account, what is this?
Form?
Yeah. Start pupil, Scott. This is a form. It's going to take what kind of information?
PII.
Yeah, it's just going to take user information that is eventually going to store it where? In the broad scheme of things?
In a mega book.
Not quite. A database. It's going to store it in a database somewhere, right? Where it's going to create objects of what? It's going to create a bunch of different objects, but for me specifically, it's going to have a what? Just a
ID.
yeah, just a user object with an ID, right? Guillermo Aguilar is going to have my email, it's going to have my phone number, it's going to have whatever personal identifiable information they pull from me, right? Yes? Form. If you weren't familiar with it, that's what this is. It's a form. What else can we see? I don't even know what this is, actually. Let's look at it. I do it all the time. It has to be a game that's currently going. What are we?
Breaking my heart here, pulling up the Lions game.
Yeah. I'm actually so used to using it for football, and there's no football games on right now. But when you play Gamecast, does anybody know what that is? See if I can find an image of it. You guys know what I'm talking about? See if I can find an image of it. Yeah, you guys ever see this? What is that? Because you see it on the website. It's not video. Anybody know what it is?
Is that an animation?
I think so, but I actually don't even know what it is. I was just curious if you guys do. But that's a what kind of element? That's some kind of HTML element, right? If an iframe is an HTML element, this is also an I'm not familiar with it, but it has to be something, right? I think you are right, Scott. I think it is an animation. Nice job. Double check that. Anyway, there you go. That's ESPN. I just broke it down for you, all the HTML elements here and exactly what's happening, right? So you can pick any of these, right? I said stretch goal of video, and I did it. You could just create a little video yourself and embed it, or you can embed something from YouTube, right? Or the other one that I've never used before, actually, Scott, an animation, right? So let's start. All right. So it says explore HTML. We're just going to explore a bunch of HTML and CSS properties, right? And then we're going to run it with, this says Python server, but you could just use live server. It doesn't really matter. And then we're just going to create, what are we supposed to do here? Just create a website with what?
HTML and CSS.
Yeah, 10 of your favorite, most intriguing HTML tags or CSS properties. So I'm just going to start a web page. I'm going to do exclamation mark tab. That's going to give me some boilerplate. Here, I'm going to put an I am going to put just an H1 here. And I'm going to say top 10. HTML, CSS elements. Cool.
Hey, Guillermo, I might have missed it, but how did you comment out all the stuff you copied over, like from the README file? Is it just those dashes, exclamation, and then the check mark there?
Highlight command / That's how I do it. Can you go in there and put in those?
Highlight.
Yeah. So here, give me a second. Sorry, my girlfriend is scaring me. All right. So I'm going to, this is just, give me 1 second. All right. This is just command forward slash, right? So I copied paste it. Then if you highlight everything that
Yep.
you want commented out, you can do just command forward slash. There you go.
Okay. Thanks,
Could you
Will.
do it manually by just putting like the double asterisk or the pound or the, the little hashtags? Yeah, you can, but that's just a faster way to do it.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So I have my boilerplate. This is how everyone started. I'm going to open with live server. And there you go. I have my little top 10 HTML. Cool. What do we want to embed here? It says your top 10 elements. Why don't we do an unordered list, right? And then we do a list element, right? And then another list element. 2, this can be 1, right? Doesn't really matter. All right. And then we create 10 of them. All right, cool. So when I look, there you go. I have a website. Top 10 favorite HTML/CSS elements. Let's do what's that you mentioned, Scott? Was that an animation?
Yeah, it looked like a CSS animation with the
Okay.
transformed style.
Okay. All righty. Someone send me the code for an animation. I actually have to research it. I've never used one. So our first one is going to be an animation. Do memes act the same as images? Does anyone know? Let's make 3 a meme. Let's make 1 an animation. And is there any difference between an animation and a meme? I don't know. But let's do animation and let's do video. All right, cool. So the first order of business, actually, let's move meme to be the first one. How about that? Because I feel like that's easier, at least in my head. All right, so I need a meme right underneath that first bullet point. How would I do it? First, we need to probably download a meme, right? Yes?
We're just wondering which meme you're going to choose.
Send me the code. I actually don't have the code. Someone Slack me the code and I'll pick a meme. I kept saying meme. I meant GIF. Doesn't matter. We're using a GIF. How do we put it in there? Is it any different than an image? That's your job. That's what everyone should be working on right now. Is it any different? Anybody figure it out?
I think the image source works for GIFs.
Okay, let's try it. Where does it go? I want to keep it inside list, right? So how about I just drop it here? Source, funny, GIF. All right. So how do I get my little GIF to show up here? Right underneath me.
Need to put it in a like an assets folder or something similar. Like you don't, the page doesn't have access to it.
Okay, cool. So I can put it in the folder, but for right now, I'm actually just going to drop it. There you go. It's HBK Sweet Chin Music. Awesome. I want this GIF on my website. How do I fix it? Kind of looks like it's getting there, right? It's running this broken image, right? So here, what do I have to do? Line 12,
Just rename it HBK.
HBK, HBK, funny GIF. There's no difference between a GIF and an image, is the way that HTML interprets it. There you go. Right, and funny GIF, I kind of don't like that. Let's do just HBK. That's my title. You're gonna notice that the formatting is all messed up, but for right now, this doesn't really matter. Right, it just matters that you can get your elements. Right, all right. So I got HBK. Cool. Is that really any different than an animation? Kind of looks like an animation, no? For all intended purposes, it probably is the same. We're going to skip that for right now. Let's skip to video. How do we embed a video?
With an iframe.
All right. Is just iframe?
No. Do an iframe, open the tag, and then it needs a source, title, height, and width.
Okay, from the line 15 that I have. What source should I get?
Here, I'll drop you a link.
Got like a funny cat video or something?
It's even better.
Oh. Let's see. You're not going to rickroll me, are you?
No, but that would have been funny.
It says watch video on YouTube, error 153.
What? Oh, it's because of the way I did it. It's Charlie and Candy Mountain.
Oh, that's a good one. See if I can
Yeah,
find it.
it's the way I pulled the embed tag whenever I did it.
Okay, let's see if I can just pull the URL. All right, here we go. I'm going to just drop that URL. Check if that works. I don't know if that's going to work. All right, let's see. It's refusing to connect. How come?
I think it's the way that YouTube does their links. I remember having to do this before.
You're like a tyrant. So
Yeah, if you go to the video page, you can click on share and it's got the embed option. And
All
that'll give
right,
you
so you are saying go here. This is what you're saying. Yeah?
yeah.
Okay, where am I going? Walk me through this.
Click share
Share.
and click embed.
Click.
And then there's your iframe, and you can copy and paste that into your
And-
HTML.
And it has a handy dandy copy button, right?
Yep.
Copy. Let's check. All right, so it really wants all of this information. Let's see if that's enough. Save.
And you gotta take out the first from the first opening bracket to that quote because it included the iframe tag whenever you copied it.
Okay, so I can just delete this thing. It already included the iframe, so I have an extra iframe. Is that what you're saying?
You did until you
All
deleted
right,
it.
cool. All right, so that works, right? There you go, Candy Mountain. And it works. Cool. There you go. Those are two elements. You just have to do your favorite 10. Why did I pick a GIF? I knew it wouldn't be any different than an image. Right. I think an animation might be different. I'm not sure. That's up to you to figure out. But this is how you embed a YouTube video. Here's another one. This is how we embedded a YouTube video. What if we just created just like a 3-second video of nothing, right? Can you figure out how to upload that if it was local? Because this HBK GIF is local. And we do the same thing with just a YouTube video, just a little clip. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to give you this to do. I already did 2, right? I want you to see if you can figure out how to make an embedded video that you make, because this video is coming from where?
YouTube.
Yeah. Record 3-second video on your phone, send it to yourself, and see if you can upload it. How different is that than this? Right? What happens if this link is broken on the internet for your website? If this YouTube video is broken and your website tries to load it, what's going to happen?
It loads like a broken image
Yeah.
error.
Yeah. It's not going to be able to load it, right? It's just going to say, hey, error, and it won't load that piece, right? And everything else will load, right? So this is pretty much exactly what what the challenge is asking you to do. Let me give you some ideas, right? Upload a video that you have locally, not from YouTube. Try that. Try to see an animation, check if that's any different, right? And what do you notice about this media right here? What do you notice about the sizing of the media?
Is it responsive or?
No. I just wanted to point out that there are different sizes, right? See if you can make this nice and even, right? Where the images and the videos take up the same amount of size, and they respond, right? You could add, and this is actually a pretty interesting one if you can figure out how to do this. Right here, I have all of my media vertically, right? What if you lay it out horizontally and you actually make it responsive, where as you shrink the page, it goes from horizontal, it drops to vertical. Because if you look at the BBC website, right, that's what the website does, right? As you shrink and the website notices that you have less real estate, it just drops a couple of the columns and it just gives you the most important one, right? See if you can line them up horizontally, and as you make the website smaller, it drops to a vertical line. That's typically what a lot of the good websites do. Boom. There you go. This is all that it's asking for. So these could be 2 elements, lining up horizontally and then having it be responsive and turn into a vertical showing. That could be an element. An animation could be an element. Your own video could be a different one, right? You can use an A tag. A tag is really simple, right? What's an A tag do?
It anchors.
Yeah, but it sends you where?
Either to an outside link or within your own page if you wanted to.
Yeah. Right. So if I create this website, or I have one, that didn't work. That didn't work. What if I just take the entire website? Would that work? This is how you created an A tag, right? Is this right? I can go here, go refresh. What am I messing up here?
You don't have any
The
clickable.
name, the website has to be in between the A tag, right to the right of bbc.com. In between those, yeah.
Click here. Yeah? Let's try that. What do you notice?
It's like a hyperlinked.
Yeah, it's a hyperlink. That's where you get the little blue thing, right? And it takes you to BBC just like it should, right? Here's somewhat of a tough question if you were paying attention, right? If I refresh this page, These hyperlinks are typically what color?
Blue.
And they're underlined, right? What's changing the color to blue and the underline? That's a tough question. I don't expect you to know this necessarily. But notice how I put click here as my button. And if I hadn't already clicked it, it would be bright blue and underlined. But I haven't styled it. What's doing the styling?
You're talking about like just the default nature of the tag,
Yeah.
just how it's built or
How,
made.
how what's built? That's pretty close.
The A tag.
It's not the A tag, actually. It's actually Chrome. When you make a request to get a website, they send you just a bunch of files, a bunch of information. And then Chrome, this is kind of weird to think about, but Chrome is just a what? Just an application, right? So Chrome actually puts that styling, even though it's not supposed to, right? Here's a perfect example. I created an H1 and an H3 right here. What do you notice about what's the difference between the H1 and the H3 here?
The font size.
Yeah, yeah, H1 is bigger than H3, but I haven't styled it anywhere. I literally just made a default tag. It's Chrome putting that styling when it's not supposed to. Chrome as the application doing this. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but that's just something important to understand. Alrighty, I give you a couple of examples how to continue with this. See if you could think of a tag that I haven't mentioned. I'm sure there's a bunch out there that I never use. But see if you can use a nav bar with a combination of an animation or something like that. Don't do like a nav bar with a bunch of A tags, right? That's just kind of what I showed you on the ESPN webpage. But any questions about this? Did that help at least? Give it a shot. Give me 1 second. You can pair up on this one. I'm going to open the groups. I'm going to let you pick partners this time. Go. We'll come back in probably about 30 minutes. Guys, how did it go? Anybody finish all 10 by chance?
I just did a couple embedded videos here and there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I got a decent one.
Did you anybody get all 10 though? Anybody get an interesting one that I didn't post?
I think I got like 9 of them, maybe 10.
You want to walk us through your Scott?
Sure. Let me just set this screen up so I can do both at once.
Mm-hmm.
So threw in a little bit of old school blinky text up here at the top. I tried to keep some notes in here as I went along. Does it matter if I show the CSS first or the HTML?
This is perfect. Just walk us through the 9, just like this. This is great.
Okay. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I put in all these like never going to give you up at giveyouup.com and 42s. I can't illegally ask. These are all placeholders for the labels and for the input fields. And they're set up in groups for the not semantic versioning, semantic grouping. Emails right there. I did find out that so I used a video tag instead of the iframe tag on the first one. And I'm not sure if I can do it with an iframe, but this one I found out I can you can style the play bar as well as set the I had to mute the damn page because it kept replaying my voice, but it was set to autoplay. So it's just going in a loop the entire time.
Oh, what's the difference between video and the iframe?
From what I can tell, this one, according to MDN, might be a little bit newer. And so not all browsers support it.
Okay, good.
And then if your browser doesn't support it, you can have text right here that would say, hey, your browser doesn't support it.
Perfect.
Separated everything with the HRs, the horizontal rules. Hit the iframe. That's just an image. I tried to pull everything off of like the free web pages. Like I think Tiffany mentioned it yesterday. And then I drop down. And then those are right here. So it's the drop down with a select tag, and then each one is an option. These are tags that they actually link back for copyright reasons. And MDN said that there is, where is it? Preferably whenever you're doing stuff like that, to add in this no opener, no referrer, to help stop malicious internet goers from possibly linking to bad sites.
Mm-hmm.
And these are radio boxes, so it's a check on, check off. The experimentation here, these are both set. That's a link as well. These are both set to be checked by default, so you don't really have a choice. And then a text box here that's resizable with a button at the very bottom.
Does the button do anything?
No.
Very cool.
Would. I just don't have anything set up for it, I guess. I'm not that far.
No, no worries. Scroll on your HTML, go to the top. I'm just gonna walk through your page real quick.
Sure.
Not on the file, on the DOM. Sorry, to your left. All right. Right from the top, I'm just gonna do a speed run of all the elements that he illustrated here. The flashing thing, didn't even know you could do that. The placeholder, if you ever fill out a form and they have the placeholders, like, hey, first name, last name, social, that it's a placeholder on the HTML. Awesome. He embedded a video that of himself. He embedded a YouTube video. Keep going down. Awesome. The options are the drop-down menu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not list items. They're known as option elements there. Radio buttons, awesome. You ever see a website with little click buttons or just radio buttons? It's just a Boolean. Come down. You can set default values on forms, which is kind of what he did right there with the yes and the no. He also made that image an A tag, right? Because it's a hyperlink, because you can click on the picture. And the resizable text box. Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's just stuff that he included.
So I goofed up here. I couldn't figure out why the iframe wouldn't center. That's because I was forgetting the period in front of it. And then the blinking text is just inside of the CSS.
Look at that line 81. Let's look at line 80 and 81. Blinking text is the name of his class. And then there's a property named animation. And I guess you can click how fast it flickers, right?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
It's total.
Yeah, that's what it is. So that's a property. I didn't know that existed, but there you go. You can center text right down line 75, text on line center. Perfect. Awesome. If you mess with the colors, I think there's 3 different ways to do colors. Well, 4 if you count the keywords like red, green, whatever. But there's hex, there's RG BIV, and then there's the other one, HSLA, I believe, or something like that. I can't remember. But if you mess with it, there's a bunch of different. There's a color meter on your Mac. You can download it if you have Windows, and it'll give you the number for any color that you hover over. A lot of really cool things. That was actually pretty perfect. If you got anything close to that, that's pretty good. Any big questions about CSS or HTML, how they interact? Actually, can you share your code one more time, Scott? Show me your code, your HTML. She's going to show one last thing, then we can wrap up. On index HTML, click it. Sorry. Share your screen and then just click on your HTML file. Okay. Scroll down a little bit. Scroll down a little bit. I'm looking for something very specific here. Scroll down. All right, stop. What's on line 84, everyone? JavaScript. Yeah, what's happening here? Just at the macro level, you don't have to tell me specifically what it does.
I'm not 100% sure. That was in the tag that whenever I chose it on Flickr or whatever.
Yeah,
page.
no worries. So it's actually doing an action. It's running code. That's an async call right there to that specific file. So it's just JavaScript. In theory, you would separate all the functionality from the styling, from the bones of the website. Here, they have it all lumped together just to make it easier, but normally you wouldn't do that. I just wanted to draw attention to that because the JavaScript portion, they don't actually teach it to you until next week, I think. But I just wanted to draw attention to it. Thank you, Scott.
Hey, I actually had a question while I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
When I was looking at other websites and stuff, I started seeing kind of a trend where on the on this page inside of the sources, whenever we're looking at it, it seems like everything has been truncated down to like single letters. Is that a framework doing that, or is there a method to that madness?
Where are you pulling this from? Which website?
This one, I can't remember what website this came from. I think it was I still
Okay,
have.
this is okay. No worries. This is just a stylistic choice. And this is actually really, really old code.
Okay.
So whoever drew it up, this is choices that they made. But if you just look at this, right, a lot of this code is actually kind of deprecated. And with some tips that kind of give it away. Look at that var t right there. We don't really use var anymore. You have that new promise. You have nested functions in there that could simply just be an arrow function. You have a then syntax right there at the end, the promise then. That's just an async await. That just tells me it's just really old code.
Okay. I wouldn't sure. I seem to have seen it multiple times whenever I was playing around in the dev tools.
Yep.
Usually when I mess around with HTML, it's like all packed together too. It's not even structured. And I think they do it to save space. So it's like no spaces or formatting or anything. It's like one continuous line of code from start to finish. So I think they do it
That might
for.
be how the browser just shows it.
I mean, when I looked at the file myself, it's like I think they kind of obfuscated like or made it so you can't like read it or something. I don't know because I played around with code like that because I wanted to mess with stuff on the page and it was just it looked just like that, but it's like it's like one line. Like it's there's no formatting, no spaces. It's just like one block of text.
Again, it might just be your browser, right? This formatting it,
Oh,
right? I imagine on their code base, it probably doesn't look like that, is my guess. But there's some pretty messy code bases, so who knows?
yeah.
If you go to like Joe Schmo website, they're gonna be that. A good example, go to the Netflix website. Theirs is top notch, right? Facebook is also really, really great. Anything Google does is amazing, right? To go to the big companies and make a bunch of money, all their stuff's gonna be good. If you go to like a Ma and Pa website, like I showed you the Austin Independent School, they're gonna have a bunch of trash, right? Because they're like director of IT makes 120 grand with 30 years of experience, right? Which is not even starting for a big tech company. There's a
I
giant
think
gap in skill there.
I think I ran into it like actually when I think about it, like when I tried to add code to my pages, like because I have web pages, and if I added a module or something, the modules code would look like I was saying it would be all packed together. So the
Uh,
PHP would be like all one solid block, or whatever code that was in there would be a solid block, and it would just be really weird, and it would just all the variables would be like one letter. But I mean,
yeah, it just depends. Depends exactly how they're writing it, right? If it's a good library, it won't be like that necessarily.
yeah. But I'm just saying, like when you, especially like if you get onto like a web page builder, because I've been on web page builders, and like you know how you just kind of slot them together, you just like slap stuff together like puzzle pieces. When you look at when I looked at the actual modules that put together, it was just a solid block of code, but it worked. And then I had to go through it and like format it
I don't
because
know what the point of this conversation is.
I don't know. I'm just saying it, but just as the way it looked. I'm just saying it because you were making a
Learn it
statement
the right
about how
way.
it looked,
Learn it the right way.
huh?
Learn how to write
Yeah, I
code the
understand.
right way.
I'm just coming off your comment about what you were saying about how it looked. That's all.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's so you're gonna actually the most important thing that you said, I think, is when you look at a module, you can actually go in there, right? We haven't got into this yet, but when you download a library, you can actually go and modify their. I mean, why would you want to, right? It's a library that you don't maintain, but you go in there and look at their code, and you're gonna realize that a lot of that code looks pretty old if they haven't like updated that part of their functionality. Right. So you'll see still a lot of that old stuff in there. Why? Because especially if it's a really big library, right?
yeah,
Maybe they have modified parts of it, but if it's so big, you're still going to go in there and find files that have like a lot of really old syntax or an old way of doing things. I mean, if it works, it still works. No one's going to mess with it.
right.
But not uncommon. Like tech moves so quickly. I don't like it when people talk about legacy code because pretty much everything is legacy. Like everything, like if it's like a year old, it's old.
Yeah.
Like it's
But I'm just saying, like you won't always see it like that. When you look at actual production code, it's all like at least where I worked at, it's gonna be like stuff like that. You're gonna have like crazy archaic parts. Or you're gonna have code from 1991.
yeah, but that's everywhere you go. That's pretty much
Yeah.
everywhere you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying in my experience is going to just to be prepared that you're going to have like crazy stuff when you look at your code is going to like you're going to have all kind of crazy insane looking code, and they're going to say,
Yes.
"Hey, fix this," and it's going to be like, "What the heck am I looking at?" That's all.
M-
That's all I was saying. That's the
More
point.
common than not. More common than not, you're going to run into it. But if you know
Yeah.
the right way to do it, it's simple to kind of don't fall into bad habits, right? You're so
Yeah.
new to programming right now. Just learn all the good ways of doing it and then stick with that.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I have. If you haven't already, after every class, and I know I said it last time, but definitely push some of your code to GitHub. You can actually ultimately always delete those things. And no one ever really needs to see it, but if you practice every day, actually, if you look at my repo, uh, there's a period of time where I did 400 days in a row, where I pushed code up to all of it is trash. All of it is trash. But I just wanted to get practice with GitHub because I thought that was so important, right? So I'm not just saying that just to kind of be like, oh, do this is important. I actually lived it. If you actually go look at my old GitHub, you can see at one point I had a 400-day streak, and I literally was just practicing Git in GitHub after every class.
You pushed 400
Yes, but it was it was all crap code, but it was really just to learn how to do it. So I would learn that I would learn whatever it is I learned in class that day, right? Which was CSS or fetches or whatever. But then I would also practice my GitHub right at the end.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful